In this lesson, we are going to start to build out the edit and create bookmark functionality in Eggly. And in doing so, we are going to dig a little deeper into UI Router as well as perform some house cleaning along the way. Speaking of house cleaning, the first thing that we're going to do is delete the main controller. It has been good to us, but it's time to move along. We'll start to move out the pieces of specific functionality into more appropriate places within the Eggly application. So within the index.html file, we will delete the ng controller reference, and in Eggly app.js, we will go ahead and just delete this controller entirely. And now that we have cleared the decks, so to speak, let's take a moment to review the routes or states that we have in place, because each one builds on top of each other, and so this will be helpful as we get into building our edit and create states. At the top level, we have this abstract Eggly state that serves as a placeholder or a namespace for application states. And we can see this state being built upon in the categories.js file, where we define the Eggly.categories state. Now this state has two named views, a categories and bookmarks view, and the categories view targets the UI element named categories in the top level state, which is Eggly, and the bookmarks named view targets the UI view named bookmarks, also in the top level state. And then in the bookmarks file, we have defined an Eggly.categories.bookmarks state that also targets the bookmarks named view in the top level state. And so before we start to build out the create and edit states, let's go ahead and just build out the templates by refactoring the bookmarks template. So I'm going to hop in and take this edit form and just paste this into the bookmarks edit template. And we can delete this, and I'm going to take this create form and we will just paste this into the bookmarks create template. And I'm going to delete this ng show because we want this form to show at all times when we're in a create state, and I'm going to go ahead and close that. And then from here, I'm just going to convert this div wrapper into a UI view element, and we're going to leave this as an unnamed UI view element that we'll revisit in just a moment. And so now that we have the template kind of refactored into the smaller, more specific templates, let's go into the bookmarks create module and define the create state. So we are going to define a config block, inject state provider in, and we will define our first state is Eggly.categories.bookmarks.create, and we'll give this a URL of bookmarks/create, and the template URL is going to be and the controller will be create bookmark controller as create controller. And let's go ahead and stub out this controller so that it's there when we get to future videos. All right. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for the edit bookmark state. So we'll hop into the edit bookmark submodule. We will define our config block, inject state provider in, and the state will be Eggly categories bookmarks.edit. The URL will be bookmarks Now we do need to pass in a bookmark ID since this is dependent on the bookmark that we're editing. And then we'll do edit, and then the template URL will be app. And we will define the controller as edit bookmark controller as edit bookmark controller, and we will just go ahead and build out this controller just real quick. We have successfully defined the two states for creating and editing a bookmark. We need to do a few additional steps so that we can successfully navigate to these newly created states. We are going to hop into the categories model and create a few new methods and add an additional property to keep track of the current category we are on. So let's define a new property called current category, and then we'll go down here and we will create a method called setCurrentCategory that accepts a category name, and then from here we will return the result of get category by name, pass in the category name, and we'll take this category that is returned from this and we'll set it to current category. And then let's define two more methods which are fairly simple in nature. Get current category, which just returns current category, and get current category name, which checks to see if current category exists, and if it does, it returns current category.name. If not, it just returns an empty string. Okay, now that we have modified the categories model, now that we have defined the categories model, let's inject it into the bookmarks list controller. We will, instead of setting this locally, we will pass this into, or we will delegate this to the categories model and pass in the state params.category property. And then from here, while I'm looking at this, let's just update result to bookmarks so that it's a little bit more self-descriptive. And then we're going to pull some methods off of the categories model and make them available to the local bookmarks list controller. One of them is get current category. And we'll do the same for get current category name. Okay, with that in place, we are ready to actually wire up this template. So the first thing we need to do is update this ngIf to target the bookmarks list controller get current category, and so if a current category exists, then we will show this, as well as this ng click here to initiate the creation of a bookmark is no longer valid, so we're going to replace this with a UISref, and we're going to navigate to eggly categories bookmarks.create. Let's also update the ng click event for going into the edit state. We will replace this with a UISref, and we're going to navigate to eggly categories bookmarks.edit, and we're going to pass in a bookmark ID. And let's go ahead and update this filter here to call get current category name. And let's just do one other thing real quick since I'm here. Let's go into the categories template, and I want to actually allow a click on the logo to reset or go back to the default category state. So we'll delete that ng click, UI sref, and we'll navigate to eggly categories. And so I believe I've covered everything. Let's hop into the browser and give this a spin and see if this is working. So we'll select development, design, so you can see now we're filtering on the current category. I can click the logo and it goes back to the base category state. And then from here, if I click edit, then you can see it's navigating to the edit state, and I can go back, and then if I click create, then you can see it's navigating to the create form. And so we have covered quite a bit of material in this lesson, but the main thing that I'd like to just quickly go over that we did is we created some methods on the categories model to expose the current category that we are on. Then we created two new routes, one to edit a current bookmark and one to create a new bookmark. Stay tuned for the next lessons where we will continue to finalize the functionality in the eggly application. See you next time.